It's great to see so many people here. This is session 2 of Crowdfunding Day at Sheffield DocFest. This is going to be a real whistle-stop tour through filmmakers who've crowdfunded, platforms that offer crowdfunding, and wider ideas of working with crowds and building communities. There's 3 parts to this panel, so everything's going to happen very quickly, so you may think that I'm being very cruel and only giving people a few minutes, but the idea is to give you a taster of all these amazing people, and you can catch up with them over lunch and later in the day. So I hope no one on the panel should be offended if I cut you off, and no one in the audience should think that I'm not interested in what they're saying, because I am. We've just invited a lot of people to come and do this, which is exciting, but we're going to rattle through it. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking, because I'm going to cut myself off. This first part of 3 in this session is filmmakers who have worked with crowdfunding. Most of the people on this panel are showing their films at this year's festival, which I think is a real proof that crowdfunding works and that it leads to really amazing films, which is brilliant. Can we bring up the image on the laptop? This is DocFest crowdfunding pitch that we're running at the moment. This afternoon there'll be 5 people pitching on stage to win whatever pot of money is contributed in 10 days' time. So if anyone in the room wants to contribute to this, you can do right now. There's a Wi-Fi network. You can get the password from any of the DocFest members of staff, and we'd love you to bump up the pot on there. But that's enough about us for now. We're going to start with Emily James. Who's second? Yes, it's an exciting order. Emily has just done the world premiere of Just Do It. And do you want to give us just a very quick kind of 1 minute about the film, and then we're going to show your crowdfunding trailer?
Does that count as one of my 4 minutes?
It's not. It might not literally be 4 minutes. Let's see.
I'll do it in less of it. Just Do It. Excuse me, I'm very hungover. Just Do It is a film about environmental activists, direct action activists, some of whom are here with us today. That's quite exciting. And I filmed for a year and thought it would go to broadcasters, and they were indifferent, and so I kept doing it, and it was about grassroots activism, so I thought, well, let's see if we can get the money that way as well. So we did that. So are we going to show the trailer?
Yeah. Can we show clip 1?
Hello and welcome to the
Oh,
Just Do
that's
It
not the
edit
trailer.
suite. This is where I'm condensing
sorry.
300 hours of
Can
the
we stop
UK's
this?
biggest
Yeah, sorry. Can we show clip 2? Sorry, Emily. It's my fault.
I put my body in the way, and I don't mind being arrested.
We just fucking do it. We've got planet, we've got 4 deluxe. Having the fear of God put into me by the climate science, like, it scared the crap out of me, I'm not going to lie.
It's become really clear to me what the most urgent things that I need to be doing are.
It's all about taking direct action, making the changes that you want to see happen.
Enough's enough, we've got to start actually doing stuff.
We're upsetting them, making it difficult for them to work. We're quite right.
Lots of getting arrested, running around, hiding, escaping.
Don't worry about climate change, just keep shopping, you're doing the right thing.
I care about this, I'm a citizen of this world.
What we do have a choice about is the future now.
You always got to have hope, and if you don't try, then you never know.
Take action, just do it.
I want to feel like I'm doing something rather than nothing, and not just watching the world go to shit.
Go on, just do it.
So that's the trailer. It's not very good. I'm hoping to make a better one.
Cool. And how much did you raise?
Through crowdfunding?
Through crowdfunding, yeah.
I think about £17,000 or £18,000.
Cool.
So.
And was it for a specific part of your budget?
Keeping us alive part of the budget, I think.
It's important.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially we hoped we would make more money out of the crowdfunding, if I'm honest. We thought we'd make a third of the budget from crowdfunding, a third from foundations and stuff, and a third from like large donations from individuals. And I think in the end, the foundations beat everybody else kind of hands down. But if we hadn't been doing the crowdfunding, I don't think we would have gotten that foundation support. And also, I think the other thing was the part that that's sort of equally important is it's not just the money that you get, but it's also this massive kind of support network that you get. So we had 500 people who gave to the film, who then, of course, passionate advocates for the film as well. Speaking of which, we'll be passing around a sign-up sheet. I hope you put your email address down so that we can put you on our mailing list, because the most valuable thing that you can have doing this kind of stuff is a wide network of people that are supporting you and helping make it happen. So, you don't have to, but I'm just saying.
Don't listen trick.
Actually, we completely failed to pass it around at the last thing I spoke at, so it was kind of at the top of my mind.
Cool.
Question?
Yep. Was it a good experience?
Not
I've heard you
everything
speak
in life that's worth doing is a good experience.
Okay, on that depressing note, we will return to Emily, but we're going to move to John Foy, who is second down this way.
Hello.
Yeah, I could have sat you in order. So John has made Resurrect Dead, Mystery of the Toynbee Tiles, which I saw at Sundance and absolutely adored, and then was very excited to discover that it was crowdfunded as well, so I could have you on the panel. So tell us a little bit about the film and your crowdfunding experience.
Well, would it be okay to just play the video first?
Yeah.
I feel like that'll explain a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so this is clip 3.
Hello, thanks for watching. I'm John Foy. I am the filmmaker with the documentary film Resurrect Dead. Someone's been laying these tiled messages in busy streets around the US and South America, and the tiles have these strange cryptic messages about resurrecting the dead. Nobody knows the people who are behind this, who are doing this, and it's been going on for decades, so it's got this urban legend, Bigfoot kind of quality to the story. I was always interested in exploring this possibility of making a documentary that is magical, that has magical realism, and that feels unreal, but it's all completely real. I spent about 5.5 years on this film. I self-funded from my wages as a house cleaner. The Sundance News took me completely by surprise. I was getting out of work from cleaning a place and walking home and got the call. And my whole life has been turned upside down.
Fade you out.
Oh, no, I mean, I wasn't... Okay. Well, yeah, so basically, I self-funded. I was working for minimum wage as a house cleaner and just working odd jobs. Made my movie on the cheap. It took about 5.5 years. And, lo and behold, I get a call from Sundance that was completely by surprise. I really set it off and never had another thought about hearing back from them, and got into Sundance. And so I knew right away things had to change really quick. I had a lot of debt at that point, and I think I had some money in the bank, so if you had averaged it out, I would have been about at zero. And so I knew that I couldn't screw around. I mean, I only had 2 months to prepare for Sundance, and I needed to raise a lot of money and do a lot of things to finish the rough cut, to kind of tweak it, to get it ready. And people are saying, oh, you need to do your colors and your sound and all this stuff. So I initially was going to get a private investor, and I showed him the film, and we got on the phone, and he just started, I thought he was being very abusive. He just started shouting at me, like right out of the gate, this movie's bullshit, you gotta change the ending's bullshit, all this stuff. And I got off the phone, and my main thought was, how can I get out of this? How can I get out from being pinned under this guy? And, there was Kickstarter. And I set up, I shot this little video in my bedroom, and I just kind of set it afloat. And I didn't really do a whole lot to manage it, but over the next week, we raised $10,000, and then over the course of the month, we raised that amount, $13,000. And for me, it was a wonderful experience. I mean, partly I was so inundated with preparing for Sundance, and so a lot of it was automatic. I just had to set it up. It was kind of like John Foy, This Is Your Life, because all these people came out of the woodwork that I hadn't, seen or talked to in years, and contributed, and were saying congratulations and things like that. So it was very heartwarming for me.
Cool. So of those 162 backers that we can see up there, what proportion of them were people that you directly messaged, so you had a direct connection to, as opposed to being random people, I guess?
That's a really important point. I mean, I think when you start a campaign like this, that the people who are going to put in the first money are going to be people who know you and know about your project directly. Strangers are less likely to toss in the first bits of money. I think you reach a point, there's a tipping point around maybe 60, 70% where other people want to kind of get on the winning team, and they'll start chucking in money too. So I recognize the names, but they were people who, all my friends are starving artists, my immediate friends, we're all broke. So some of them contributed anyway, which was very heartbreaking to see. I mean, people who really had no money at all were giving me hundreds of dollars, which, and then kind of like their parents or friends of friends, or people from high school or things like that were contributing at first. It was mostly familiar names.
Cool.
Through the list.
Cool. Okay, again, we'll come back to that, but I'm going to move to Dan Edelston now. So Dan's going to tell us about how to re-establish a vodka empire.
Okay, well, I think in the tradition, I think just play the little trailer that gives people an idea, and then I'll spout something after that.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is it, the starting point, the moment of the beginning of the adventure. In the attic of my mum's house, I've discovered a manuscript belonging to my grandmother, Marussia. She was a wealthy Jewish girl born in pre-revolutionary Ukraine, but she ended her days penniless in Belfast, buried on the Falls Road.
Compelled to leave the city to the Germans, the Reds looted it in a frenzy, not of lust only, but destruction. The horror of the sacking and killing was intensified by the darkness in which the strike of the electricians had plugged us.
I fell right into her dangerous world full of revolution, excitement, and violence. Although some of the top historians in the field have dismissed my grandmother's memoir as a work of romantic fiction, I feel compelled to go to the Ukraine to look for her sugar factory.
All the brothers has been killed by the Bolsheviks. They're all artists. All these folk of the family were artists. And they had a theater, and the theater was working even during the revolution. All of them, they killed them. When they killed them, my grandmother told me that they gave the shoe to the mother because this was a sign that they died.
How could a mortal hand fix the sunshine of the dream summer? What did the venerable book on philosophy, so dusty in its pigskin, tell us? Life is but a shadow. Not even the lingering shadow of a tree or a tower, but a passing shadow of a bird in flight.
Over a couple of drinks in the village shop, Yuri tells us that my great-grandfather owned the spirits factory at the other end of the village. Still open now, it was expropriated during the Bolshevik Revolution. Hopefully this guy won't invite us in for a vodka.
Probably he do. He will.
He walks, yeah.
He would.
Eventually, we arrive at my great-grandfather's spirits factory.
It was built for the sugar money.
Yeah. Join me on my mission to re-establish great-grandfather Ilya's vodka empire and for a riches to rags story of revolution and migration. And lastly, my quest to discover my roots in deepest, darkest Ukraine.
He's making film. No?
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, so that trailer was actually put together a couple of years ago. So now we've actually managed to reach the conclusion of the vodka empire hasn't quite been re-established yet, but we're within a hair's breadth of achieving the goal. So at that point when we made the trailer, I think there was no money in it whatsoever, really. And since finding, again, like everyone else on this panel, I think you make a choice. You're going to make your film come hell or high water. And, at that point, until I found my great-grandfather's vodka distillery, I was making a film called Bolshevism to Belfast about my grandmother's flight and, riches to rags and dying in Belfast. And no one wanted to touch it. The great ambition at the time was it would go on the community channel, I think, from my producer. Although I was, hell-bent to keep it off the community channel. Not that there's anything wrong with the community channel. But then when we rethought of the idea as re-establishing the empire, we managed to get Channel 4 aboard, which was good. We got some more 4 money, which was really good. And that then set a kind of tempo or a feeling of we might well do this, a kind of tipping point thing. Then we decided, like Emily, I'm working with this producer, Christo, who's really into the crowdfunding over here. So we decided to try and set up that vodka club, which you're a member of, Charlie, and many of the people possibly in this audience.
I was one of the first, I think.
You are, indeed, one of the most cherished members, Charlie. Yeah. And so the vodka empire was very literally, give us some money, we'll give you a bottle of vodka and, your credit in the film and all of that kind of stuff. And that was really good, and we raised some money using that, although nothing like what Emily raised. I think we got about 5,000 altogether from that. But the great thing about it was we went on Indiegogo and we had a very unsuccessful campaign on there, in which I think I gave a week to try and raise 10 grand at one point. And I didn't really try and do it too hard either. But we raised about £1,500. But one of my friends who did join it during that fateful week published it to his Facebook profile, and a friend of his who is minted saw that he'd just joined from his Facebook and had already heard about it in the press or somewhere, and so he lobbed in £50,000. So in a sense, although I think that there's a huge degree of maintenance to do these kind of crowdfunding things, and they are actually a real pain no matter what anyone will tell you, because there's so much admin involved. You've got to send things out all the time, update people's picture on the website. It's just, you almost become a full-time service centre as opposed to a filmmaker for a while you're doing that. So I think it's really excellent PR, as opposed to, I think the value of it is in the PR and in raising awareness around your project, and almost in just flag posting, telling people, look, we're making this project, there's a movement behind it, people are into it, you need to get into this with some serious cash, That's the message, and then, so we've managed to raise it from there, and then other places have thrown it in. So we've kind of a mixture of traditional broadcast with a bit of crowd and a bit of, minted entrepreneur behind us.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. It's very good vodka as well, so I recommend joining up. Let's move on to David Ebersole from Hit So Hard. Again, a film that we're showing at the festival this year that I really adore. David?
Hit So Hard is about the drummer from Courtney Love's band Hole. Her name is Patty Schemmel. And so what was sort of interesting about our project is that she had a fan base, and so people wanted to support her, and we knew that we weren't relying so much on ourselves as filmmakers to try to draw people in. Actually, my husband Todd and I were extremely reluctant, Todd's the producer on the film, to do any crowdfunding whatsoever, because we felt very embarrassed about putting ourselves out there as filmmakers who needed money from our friends. And it was like, asking people, like, can you give us your $2,500, your $100, and then you go out to dinner with them and you spend $50 doing something, and you're sort of like, well, why are we out there with them, socializing and doing what we're doing instead of using our money? And we were self-funding the movie. So we were just, no, we don't want to do it. And our producer, Christina Soletti, who is Patty Schemmel's wife, was the one who really felt like, she said, you're not asking your friends, you're actually asking a community of people who want to support the idea of a film about Patty making it to the screen. And so we we decided that we would go ahead and do it. And also, Alison Anders had just done it, and that encouraged us as well, because we thought, well, if Alison can go out and ask people for money to complete her film, then why are we embarrassed to do it? And she did this very amazing thing about having all of these really cool premiums, and so you kind of wanted the things that were on her site that she was offering, and so that's what we worked towards, was getting people to donate things that we thought would be kind of fascinating and fun for people to get. Like Gina Schock from the Go-Go's donated old T-shirts from the Go-Go's original tour. We had Faith No More do things from there. So because of the web of friends that Patty had and the support that we had in the rock and roll community, the Smashing Pumpkins producer gave for $1,000 that you could come and do a recording. He would do a recording in his studio with you, and Patty would play drums. So we did a bunch of things that were trying to lure people in through what it was that we had to offer. And then the last sort of piece of it for us was that we had a friend who was raising money, and we felt like he had done such a sort of good job of making you like him in his pitch that we thought, well, we have to be on camera. We can't just put up a trailer. We actually have to do something where we sort of come forward and act silly and make people say, oh, I think maybe we should help those people out. So that's sort of our Kickstarter trailer. And then we had we also felt like if anybody is interested in supporting this, they're already pretty much interested in supporting it, so they need just a taste of the movie. They didn't need some 12-minute trailer, because when we watched other people's things like that, even when I was funding them, I was like, 1 minute, I'm done. Like, I can turn that off, and I know I'm going to give them money. So we just felt like, make it quick, make it fun, and put puppies and kittens in it.
Yeah. I think we should see your fundraising teaser, because it is one of the best examples of a crowdfunding teaser that I've ever seen. So let's put it on. Yep, so this is Hit So Hard.
Hi, welcome to our Kickstarter plea for our new documentary film titled Hit So Hard:
The Life and Near-Death Story
of drummer Patty Schemmel.
My name is Todd Hughes. I'm one of the producers.
I'm Christina Soletti. I'm another producer.
And I'm P.David, the director.
So this all started back when, in 2007, Patty told me she had all this footage that she had shot when she was in Hull back in the 90s. And since it was high-8 tape, it was going to disintegrate pretty soon. So she asked me what she thought she should do with it. So I said, you should talk to my friend P.David Ebersol.
So Patty brings me 40 hours of high-8 tape, never before seen stuff, and we start watching it together, and it's fascinating, and she's telling me her, life story.
Back in the old days. Yeah. My back's hurting anyway. My ticker.
I said to her, I'm a narrative filmmaker, but I said to her, I think you have a documentary, not thinking that I would do it. I mean, I was just saying, I think that you could make a documentary out of this footage.
But I said, Patty, I think you should ask David to direct it.
We started interviewing people. We interviewed her mother.
Is that go in the movie?
Her brother.
Yeah.
Her friends.
I love Patty Schemmel.
Her fans.
Oh my God, Patty's drumming.
Band members.
I'm very aware I have been interviewed for a documentary on my dear friend Patty Schemmel, and fucking, it's fine. Use what you'd like. Thank you, and good night.
She was a fucking nightmare.
And people she didn't even know.
But you mentioned. Cut to 4 years later, we finally have a picture lock, and believe me, we have learned the craft of documentary filmmaking.
Sorry, you guys. I thought it would at least be a budget 8.
And this is one of Patty's co-stars in the film, Dolly, also known as
Doll Parts.
So, we've made our plea. This is where you come in.
Stay tuned and watch the trailer.
Because this baby's getting heavy. Thank you.
Thank you.
How many famous women drummers do you know?
We're Pearl Jam.
Take a look at the band Hole and you see Courtney Love, a strong woman worshipped by countless teenage girls. But take a listen and you'll know who's really in charge. Another woman, drummer Patty Sheffield.
When we were first on the road with Hole, Patty she was just heavy. You know, she's almost psychic.
My memoirs are all encompassed in Patty's uterus.
You know, Patty was very nearly in Nirvana.
Patty would be the most important redhead in my whole life.
My little red-headed girl.
Still, not all is bright, as one band member is missing.
Can you guys tell me what's going on with Patty?
She's all feeling some problems. It is the age of mutually assured destruction.
Suicide.
Addiction. Reagan and Bush.
Say no to drugs.
Broken sticks everywhere, right?
I think I understand.
Seeing the demons, you see the darkness now, you're seeing where it leads to.
Said, I've got to go, my bass player just died.
I didn't know how far she would go.
We all love Patty, like what the fuck were we thinking?
Everybody does it to everybody.
It's a nasty, greasy, icky business.
Courtney, looking for a drummer.
So good. Can we come back to the laptop? Okay, let's move on to Jesse, sitting next to me here. So,
hello.
Yeah. Oh, go on.
My project is, the working title at the moment is Perpetual Burn, the story of Jason Becker. To make a long story short, Jason is a legend within the rock guitar community. When he was just a teenager, he was a child prodigy, he was just a teenager, he got the biggest rock guitar gig in the world. A week later, he was given 3 to 5 years to live and diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. That was 21 years ago. Jason has outlived all doctors' predictions. He can no longer move, breathe on his own, or eat on his own, but he still, through a communication system his father invented, still writes music with his eyes, releases albums, and is an inspiration to millions of people around the world. The reason that I wanted to make this film, I wanted to make it for over 10 years. I just felt it was too big of a task at the time. I wasn't ready to take on such a huge responsibility of telling this story. But I finally said, I think I'm ready now. And the reason I wanted to crowdfund, every day of Jason's life is a miracle, and I didn't want to wait 2-3 years, submitting grant proposals, being rejected, all the rest of it. I just wanted to get on with it. And I also knew that I needed footage if I was going to cut any kind of teaser or trailer to then, get more money somehow. So I went on Indiegogo and started. Well, first I started, a Facebook campaign, and it was amazing. The response within 3 weeks, we had 15,000 fans from all over the world, and essentially just tapped into them. I knew that people have been dying to see a film like this. The response has been amazing. So within a few months, we raised about $12,000, and the response wasn't as good, on the money side of things. It's always difficult to get people to give you money, but it was enough to get our crew out to San Francisco and to come back with footage that we then cut a teaser trailer with, and then that more than tripled it within 3-4 weeks. We had more than reached our goal. So why I chose Indiegogo, because you got over Kickstarter, because you got the money when it came in, and I knew that I didn't want to wait 4 months and cross my fingers and hope that we got all the money so we could go. It allowed us to start work, basically, and that's essentially how it went. I would say things that really helped, and things I learned a lot going through it is really think about your perks and how many levels of perks you're going to give. I found that it's much easier to get one person to give you $1,000 than it is for 1,000 people to give you $1. And also, in terms of perks and what you give away, make sure it's manageable. Going back to what someone said earlier, was that it is intensive. I mean, you're constantly... I've made it a point that for every person who donated, send a personal email of thanks, and that's over 400 emails, constantly updating the website. It is like a full-time job, so just be very careful with what you do. For the highest perk level, I think sillily, I thought maybe 1 or 2 people would give me $1,000, and I'm gonna, give an exact producer credit, and I'm going to end up with about 20 exec producers in my my end title credits, which would be kind of funny. But hey, we got to make the film. So anyway, that's my story.
And can you tell us a little bit about the role of the San Francisco Film Society? Because people can probably see it. We've got the page up there, and people can probably see that it says tax deductible through the San Francisco Film Society.
Yeah, well, that was they were our fiscal sponsor, and essentially you have to submit all kinds of references and information and documents and all the rest of it. And if they approve you, that means that there's two ways I think you can go through Indiegogo. You can go straight through them, the money comes straight in, or you go through a fiscal sponsor. I think it's Atlas something they have on there, but also San Francisco Film Society. Brachet Atlas, that's right, thank you. And we just liked San Francisco Film Society, and essentially big donors, anything that goes through San Francisco Film Society, they can then write off on their taxes. We thought that was a nice incentive. And then San Francisco Film Society cuts you a check. But what's great about them is they also give you loads of advice on different grants to look out for, production facilities within the area, and they were just super helpful.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Jesse. Let's move on to Jeannie Finley. She's our final filmmaker. So Jeannie is another filmmaker premiering her film in Sheffield, or UK premiere anyway, and that's Sound It Out. So tell us all about it.
Sound It Out's a film about the very last record shop in Teesside, where I grew up. And it's a kind of a portrait of a dying breed, I guess, or someone that's the last man standing. And I'd been making another film, and it was taking a while to sort out legal stuff with contributors. And I thought, you know what, if I'm a filmmaker, I need to be holding a camera in my hand, and I just want to go and make this film. And I knew I could drive up the road and stay in my old bedroom and just shoot the film, just shoot it. So I shot for a while, and then and I pitched it a couple of times, and it was a bit like, this is quite boring, there's no money here. And I thought, you know what, I do not want to have any meetings about this film, I just want to make it. So Charlie encouraged me, and I ended up doing 3 Indiegogo campaigns, one for the shoot. I shot for a while, and then I wanted some more money to do the shoot, actually pay for the shoot. One for the post-production, and then when we got into South by Southwest, one to get us there, and to take Saint Saviour, who features in the film as a singer, and to take Tom, who runs the record shop. And I think we've got 270 backers in total, and people backed us from $5 to a soldier serving in Iraq gave us $2,000 to come on board as an associate producer. And he did that because his brother works in a Nashville pressing plant, United Records, and he liked the idea that a record that his brother had made was for sale in the shop where Tom works. And we made Beautiful Perks, packaged the film like a double gatefold 7-inch single, became the official film of Record Store Day. I mean, to be honest, it's been a hell of a lot of work, but I can honestly, hand on heart, say it's been the best filmmaking experience I've ever had, and it's kind of become like a little runaway train. It's on at 3 o'clock today at the Library Theatre, so do come, and there's some flyers here. But why don't you watch my second campaign clip, asking for money.
Cool. So this is Sound It Out.
Hello, I'm Jeannie, the director of Sound It Out, the documentary. I've made films like Goth Cruise for IFC and Teenland for the BBC. My new film is Sound It Out, about the very last surviving vinyl record shop in Teesside in the northeast of England. And here we are, been shooting in the shop. It's an observational documentary about men collecting vinyl records and the importance that music plays in all of our lives.
Hello, Sound Out Records. I am the only record shop left, yes. I'm the only one left in Teesside now. It is fantastic, but it's sad. It's emotions. It's all about emotions records. Emotions and memories. Records hold memories.
An amazing 67 people from 8 different countries helped sponsor the film in the first round. And it's meant that I've been able to spend lots of time in the shop shooting, and also going back to people's houses for regular customers and finding out a bit more about their lives. And I've learnt more about what music really means to them.
I like me quote. People say I'm mad, but I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't have a woman, so, you know, what more do you want?
So I've met people like Shane and DJ Frankie and John Boy.
Yo, DJ Frankie slamming on the bounties inside the house crew. Let's do this!
shoot's been brilliant, and now I need your support to help finish the film. I need you to help sponsor the film like a sponsored swim. It's very simple. Just go onto Indiegogo and you can support the film for the cost of a pint. It's about $5. Independent record shops are an endangered species. All of the record shops I grew up with have closed down. So it's really important that we capture Sound It Out while it's here in all its glory. Every penny that you donate will show on screen and will help go towards the post-production. It means that the film's going to sound really good and is going to look really good. Thanks so much for your support. Wish me luck. We're almost there. So we finished, we finished the film, raised enough money. I mean, we didn't raise a lot of money, but there's also a lot of music in this film. There's 29 pieces of music. And it was almost once we started making it, the fact that it was micro-budget and people could see that we're trying to make it happen. And every person who seems to work at a record label now used to work in a record shop, meant that they all came on board. But we also got really big partners, so we eventually became the official film of Record Store Day, and they've got like 75,000 fans on Facebook, and they're connected to every single independent record shop in the world. So they brought me out to Film Forum in New York for Record Store Day this year, but they really helped bang the drum on our behalf. And I would say that 60% of people who funded the film were strangers, I think. But we also had people who funded every single campaign as well.
Cool. Thanks, Jeannie. In a moment, we're going to swap over to the next group because time's kind of marched on. But there's probably a lot of people in this room who are considering crowdfunding and not tried it. So for anyone on the panel, it's a kind of two-part question. Firstly, would you encourage people to do it? I mean, was it such a good experience that you would encourage people? And secondly, what would be your main bit of advice to anyone who is considering throwing themselves into crowdfunding? That's for anyone. And you can answer either of those two questions, or both.
Yeah, I think people should do it if it's appropriate for their film, and if the subject works, and if there's a if there's a kind of niche audience or a fan base or something that you can plug into. And my advice would be, don't underestimate how much work it will be. Don't have too high an expectation for it, and don't give up.
And I would definitely encourage people to do it because it did so many more things for our film besides raise money. It began the awareness of the movie. I think it helped us get into film festivals. People started to know who we were. Linda Perry gave money to our movie to push us over the top. It became a news item out of the blue. So suddenly, there was different kind of awareness for our movie. And conversely, I would actually almost say don't underestimate yourself. And people will look at that amount that you're trying to raise, and they kind of stop. When you get a little bit more and go beyond it. But sometimes you actually could maybe think a little more for yourself. I don't think you should go crazy. We had a friend who just put up a film and raised $80,000 for it, and when it started we thought, she's insane, she's never going to make it. And as it kept going, and I think the idea of being on a winning team, people start to say, wait, they're going, let's participate. So we raised our initial goal in 2 days, in 48 hours, and it was $15,000. And so we almost wish, if we had done $25,000, we would have gone a little bit further. But, you make that choice when you get started. So I would say also don't underestimate what it is that you might be able to get.
All of those are really difficult. Like, they're sitting there kind of going, right, how many days and how much money? How much do we think we could do? There's some really difficult kind of things. And
short.
It's short. And it creates some kind of sense of urgency, why people need to do it now. What's the reason to give now? We weren't on a platform. We built it into our own website, and we had it up there for ages. And we've trickles of money were coming in, and it's not really, And then we got Lush, the soap company, agreed to do a match fund for it. In fact, actually, they gave us 10 grand, and then I said, could we do this as a match fund so we can get people to, because they were really, they were really into the crowdfunding thing. So then we sort of fibbed and told everybody that we would get £1 for every pound, but they said, you'll get the whole 10 grand anyway, don't worry. But it was amazing. In 3 weeks, we raised £10,000 from the public, and and then it trailed off again after that. There was a reason, there was an immediacy, and that was really, really important.
We found a lot of people come in the beginning and a lot of people come in right at the end.
Yeah.
And the middle was a lull.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say do it short rather than long. We did 30 days.
Yeah. And do events around it. And I mean, we're about to launch our 4th crowdfunding campaign. The BFI are going to back a mini baby theatrical release of our film with the condition that we do one last crowdfunding campaign. So it's kind of going to be, we're not allowed to call it a match fund, it's a match fund. But I'm really excited that it can unlock public money in this country. My advice would be, in terms of doing crowdfunding, is don't be British about it. When I did my first campaign, I just put a trailer up and I was like, yes, this is a great film. People will obviously be able to see that. And someone at Indiegogo put me in touch with a filmmaker, John Tregonis, who'd made a short called Cerise and really engaged strangers. And he was like, a trailer is not a pitch video. You've got to put yourself in it. And I was like, I make films so I don't have to ever go in front of a camera. There's no way I'm ever going to do a pitch video. And we raised about 10p. So then I put myself in the video, and the campaign worked.
Yeah.
So I hate doing it, and it's very uncomfortable, but yeah, it works. It's much better to do that and to have the mindset that you're encouraging people to take part in something that's brilliant. You're not begging.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's important from what I've gathered is to give people a sense of agency. I mean, if we're all storytellers, then this should be easy for us, right? Create a good story around the making of the movie and give people the sense that they're going to affect the outcome, whether the movie gets made or not. I mean, in my case, there was more of like a binary set of outcomes, and so people wanted to jump in to make sure that I didn't fail, I didn't pull out of Sundance, because that was very real. I was really looking at that as a possibility. So, I think that when people have these kind of stark consequences, well, that sounds really bad, but when there's going to be real results from what they do, then that tends to motivate people. I think people also like when you kind of pull back the curtain and they get to see like who you all are. I mean, that was especially cool in your video. I thought seeing that, just because there's a sense of like, wow, these are the people who make this kind of thing. I mean, it's true with all of us, but
we're all we were desperately embarrassed and really did not want to go on camera. And the only reason we did is that we had the 3 of us
be able
to do it together.
It was great.
And we brought the baby. We're like, and the baby, feed the baby.
Yeah, but people feel like they're in on it. You know what I mean? Because they don't know who makes films usually, right? It's faceless people. Yeah.
I think that the other thing I'd like to say, because it hasn't really come up, but one of the reasons why I was particularly interested in getting involved in crowdfunding and why I'm really, as difficult as it's been, and I'm not quite sure I'll ever do it again, I think that crowdfunding is a way to really reimagine the relationship between the consumers of media and the producers of media. I think that, we've all kind of, we not so much because we make, but the people that consume have kind of got into this situation where other people make the decisions about what gets made and what doesn't get made, and then they're offered this kind of fare of slightly mediocre, sort of pandering to the bottom line, but pandering to the kind of lowest common denominator. And then they can choose. They can go, well, I like that, I'll go and see that, or I'll buy that, or I'll watch that on TV. And with this model, it's a way for people to actually say, I want that to exist, and I'm going to help make that exist. And that's just like a completely, totally turning it all upside down. And it's, and I think that's just, incredibly exciting and empowering. I'd like to see us figure out a way that we can do that in a more kind of coherent, sort of joined up way, because the other thing is that, like, okay, it's fine, because frankly, we're all novelties, right? Like, we were doing this in a kind of state where nobody'd really been asked before, or that, maybe a few or something like that. But I mean, imagine what your inbox would look like if every independent filmmaker was sending you an email going, "Can you give money to my film?" It's just like it's ridiculous, and also it's not really very sustainable because we spend a huge amount of energy sort of doing this side of things, and that you really kind of can't. It's not really going to work. So I think we need to, like, I don't know. I'm not proposing anything. I'm just saying somebody let's put it together and
like an infrastructure to bypass the broadcasters in a way. But you know, I think that's the big thing from the crowdfunding as well, which has been mentioned on this panel several times. It's about building the community around the project, and I think you did this very well, Emily. But also an infrastructure as well. I think you managed to blag an office for free, from what I heard, and then filled it with quite a few people. Get a production line of things going on, because that's what it kind of needs. There needs to be a real energy. There needs to be things happening behind the screen. It can't just be a screen and then that's it. People need to really genuinely feel connected and be invited to your events, and it needs to be an interaction between online and reality as well. They need to see you in the real world, I think.
And I don't know about the rest of you, but we've actually had Kickstarter supporters show up at screenings and say, I give money to your Kickstarter campaign. And now one guy drove all the way to Seattle from North Carolina because he'd missed it in New York, and he was a supporter of the film, and he wanted to see it while it was new and out and about. And so you've created this relationship with people that are in your audience. It's very different.
I'm just going to jump in there because we need to move on to the next group, and this is really interesting. But most of these guys are still going to stay around for a bit, so you can talk to them more about their experiences. So thank you to the filmmakers. So these are four people who are offering platforms on which you can crowdfund your film. And I think it's a nice lead-in from what was being discussed at the end there about wanting to systematize crowdfunding so that it doesn't feel like an individual person having to do all the work themselves. Part of the advantage of what these guys do is that they are providing a framework and a system in which at least some of the stress of crowdfunding is taken away from them because they're providing this kind of overarching structure. So we'll hear from them a bit about what they're offering, and then we'll have a little discussion about why they're doing what they're doing. So let's start with Adam from Indiegogo. Tell us a bit about Indiegogo. We've obviously heard a little bit already.
Okay. Indiegogo is a crowdfunding platform, which I think, like Yancey was saying earlier, for anyone who wasn't here, we never call it crowdfunding because funding is sort of one of the benefits that you get from the process. And as Emily was talking about, there's so many other benefits that you'll get from going through the endeavor that I encourage everybody to give it a shot. Anyway, Indiegogo currently has active campaigns in over 180 countries. We have over 26,000 campaigns running on the site. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 films. We have lots of success stories every day. There are, I don't know how many documentaries, to be honest, but thousands. And Jeannie and Jesse are great examples of ways that you can use the platform to make your dreams come true. That's us.
Cool. That's a neat summary. Let's move on to Tom, who's from a relatively new UK platform, which is We Did This, which isn't just limited to film, I should say, but you can tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. Well, We Did This is a lot smaller than Indiegogo, admittedly. What we're about is creating a community of funders and repeat micro-philanthropists. So we actually launch a portfolio of projects every 30 days. And we work very closely with the projects across the whole UK arts scene. So that does include film, although that's not a particular area we've worked a lot with at the moment. But we work with orchestras and performance companies and visual artists, and we select a group of them to launch at the same time. So they start their campaigns at the same time and end their campaigns on the same day at the end of the month as well. And it was created really in response to the arts funding cuts from local authorities and from the Arts Council, and indeed our traffic spike this year was the day that all the cuts happened, with people looking for solutions. But we're very much for the whole UK art scene, and it's about building a repeat funder base, and hopefully we want to be in a position in the end so that we're able to introduce other opera projects, for example, to people who we know have supported opera in the past. People who like orchestras, introduce them to new orchestras to fund, and so on and so on. And the idea is that we'll have this community who can support that body of projects on a monthly basis rather than just a one-off.
Cool, thank you. So next, Michael Norton from Buzzbank.
Yeah,
Shall I bring up your
just show the
presentation?
front page.
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
That's fine. Buzzbanks was launched in January this year, and it is for social ventures. It's for projects which deliver public or social benefit. which can include films, but we're constrained by the fact we are funded by charitable foundations. I saw an ad in the, I suppose, 1960s, "You're never alone with a strand," and it's about a cigarette. It made your life happy. I feel with many people doing projects, you're never alone with a crowd, and I wanted to re-engineer the relationship between charitable giving and the people accepting money to create more of a co-venturing partnership between them. We're just like most other crowdfunding platforms, but there are a couple of essential differences. One is that we can provide financial returns to people, not equity, but revenue shares on loans or on donations. And secondly, that we can manage tax relief for that bit of the support which is not paying for an actual benefit. Just an example, I'm funding two things on my website. One is a mushroom project where I growing tribal women in India growing mushrooms, and I approached some friends and I said, please give me £100 or £250, and I got about 3/4 of my target just through a few emails, and the rest sort of followed. My brother said to me, I'll give you £150, so I shamed him by saying, I'll pay the other £100 if you're so poor. He said, no, I'll give the full £250. I'm funding another project, which is a book, my next book, Change the World with Your Mouse, from your computer follow-up from 365 Ways. And the benefits should be a lot of fun. But in our world, the benefits should also promote the idea that is being funded, the campaign or whatever. So my book's about being active in the world to change it. So if you put up £10, you get a copy of the book, and you get 0.004% of the revenue I earn from the book, which could be something. If you give me £500, you get a day on a tandem bike with me looking at social enterprise. Luckily, I've got 3 people doing that, so I've been given the use of 2 tandem bikes. I've got to 60-something% of my target on that, and a few more, about a couple of months to go. I just think the whole thing's really exciting, and I'm much more interested in the crowd than the money, of getting people around you, behind you, to help you do things, because I think that's more important than the money.
Thank you, Michael. That's great. So next, Jamie King, who it's not technically crowdfunding, I guess. It's more crowd distribution, maybe, but you can tell us a bit more. This is Vodo.
Yeah, we're slightly different from the other people doing this in that we distribute films. Vodo started, I made a film in 2006 with some friends called Steal This Film, and it was a film about, so some people know it was a film about piracy, but also about how peer-to-peer and these new architectures that were available to us online to distribute film changed the opportunities that were available to creators, to all sorts of filmmakers. And during the first couple of years after Steal This Film, including at Sheffield and at BritDoc at least, I was put on a lot of panels where we were expected to sort of be arguing with filmmakers who would say, you know, you're drinking our milkshake and taking away our livelihoods and sharing is evil and stuff. But actually what happened was that in those years, 2006 up till today, loads of filmmakers approached me and said, well, I've got a film that I made somehow or other, and it's not going on telly, and it's not getting a theatrical distribution for sure. And how do I do what you did? How do I take my film and give it away for free to millions of people? And I used to just tell them, and then they'd never do it because it requires some sort of specialist knowledge. So eventually, Vodo really represents our attempt to build a system that can let you take your work and give it away on a terrifically large scale, if you want to, and then try to engage the audience that you develop with very similar ideas about incentives to donate, incentives to get involved, which can range from interesting limited edition products around the film to credits in a next episode or a next production. And it's a very peculiar economics, saying, well, I'm going to give my film away 2 million times and then see what happens. And obviously it's more counterintuitive than trying to raise money through crowdfunding, and then you've still got a product which you can sell in the traditional way. Maybe this one requires you to give everything away after having done the 2 years or 3 years later. So as you can appreciate, it's not for everybody. But we're starting to get interesting things happening. So we made $80,000 for our show, which was developed for us, which is Pioneer One. It's a science fiction show. That's $80,000 completely raised from the crowd after having been given the film for free, which shows you that this strange, counterintuitive economics of generosity can apply post-distribution as well as pre-distribution, and that's really what we're trying to develop and see how far we can take that.
Thanks, James. I mean, for any of you, do you think that the fact that a lot of platforms like these have come into existence in the last couple of years is proof that the old model of film funding just isn't working?
Yes.
And why do you think it's not working?
Well, why is it proof, or why is it not working? I mean, it's not working for obvious reasons. Well, it's. I think you have the same thing we know. It's much easier to make a film, so there's many more films. There are many more people who are making quality films, and there's only so many outlets that can handle them. There's a consolidation of media, so there's a trend towards the tentpoleization of film, and so people want biggest, flashiest, most summer blockbuster kind of films more than the quote-unquote long tail. Even Netflix in the U.S., who was the champion of long tail, is now saying "fuck you" to long tail films, which is pretty pathetic and sad. So there's a huge number of people who appreciate, especially documentaries are the perfect example. They always have niche audiences. They always have specialized focuses, and yet the broadcasters who have been funding them just aren't as interested as ever, so you can go directly to your niche. This is like a very efficient use of targeting your niche, and like, I forget who was just saying, but taking demand for what could be created right to the people who want to see it and putting the money from them right into the production. I think that's part of what's happening.
Sounds like exactly what I'd say, but I would just add that there's a type of media that's being developed now by people who, for example, just borrowed a Canon 5D from somebody or shot something on an HD camera they've got that's like, I remember when I was talking to someone about the zeitgeist, some real TV people. I know there's loads of TV people here, so I shouldn't say, but I could see this sort of sneering look on their face about the film Zeitgeist, which has been seen by like 60 million people or something. I mean, there is some insanity to that film, but what the look on their face was saying was, this isn't a proper film. This was done by a member of the goddamn public. And those are the films I love, because I think, great, I like to believe that we could all be that guy who has a crackpot theory and suddenly gets it in front of 60 million people. It's a fascinating thing, and those films don't have a place within. It's not because people are wicked. I think it's not because Netflix is wicked or the BBC is wicked. It's because they only have a certain amount of bandwidth available, whether it's real bandwidth or just hours in the day, and they're not used to dealing with these kinds of expressions. We haven't yet worked out how to deal with what happens when you get an 18-year-old kid who gets a camera and shoots a drama in his backyard, and it's actually quite good, but it's got no colouring, it's got no post-production, the sound is rubbish, it's edited badly, but actually there's 2 million people who would watch that. And that's a fascinating moment that we're at, and I really think it's really exciting.
It doesn't have to be either or. I think crowdfunding can work really well in partnership with other traditional forms of funding. I think we all want to be angels, but we're not Smirnoff, we're Dan Edelstein's vodka. And by being able to put in £10 and help get a film made, I think we become angels. I came to crowdfunding actually by being one of the first people to put up £500 into The Age of Stupid. The other thing I think is that it opens up new opportunities because you can crowdsource as well as crowdfund. And my dream is a crowdfunded opera where you get a crowd of people behind the opera that determine what's going to be made, how it's going to be made, and with benefits like a diva at your dinner party. I think it would work really well.
As long as the crowd's not singing.
You get a chance to sing on stage and to be in the non-singing bit of the choir as well. And I put it to the ENO, and they were too snooty, but the Welsh National Opera are thinking about it, so we'll see.
I think that's a huge benefit of crowdfunding, actually, in that you're creating a community in which you can launch a product. I think people who are creating work now really enjoy that early communication with the people who are going to end up watching it or listening to it or engaging with it in some way. So it's it was mentioned earlier that it's much more about a funding ask. It's also about enlarging your audience. And I mean, Apple proves it all the time. They can launch any product they like and people will buy it because they've built up this community around their product portfolio. So I think that's one of the huge benefits of crowdfunding, that community engagement, earlier communication, keeping people up to date with what you're doing so that they're going to be interested in the product when it is actually created.
Do you think all filmmakers have a community? Because obviously with Hit So Hard, for example, you've immediately got whole fans as the people that you can go to. But I mean, I certainly believe that all filmmakers have some kind of community around them, even if it is just fans of their previous films or their friends and family to start with. But I mean, do you think that any filmmaker can do this?
Yeah, I think there is. People obviously have their personal communities, families, friends, who are the primary people who are going to be donating to their causes. But also, just around subject matters of films, there are massive communities of people who might be interested in a documentary about a drummer and things like that. So I think there are two sides to that coin. One is the people who are personally connected to the people creating the film, but the next one is looking at actually who's interested in the subject of the film as well, and being able to put those two together could really enhance the campaign and make it very successful.
Can I just say that about the filmmakers who were saying, I completely agree, and I probably shouldn't say it as a sort of from a business point of view, it's really stupid, but I really agree that there's something very suspicious about the amount of value that we create from filmmakers' labour to create these communities and to reach these supportive communities. And I totally agree that it would be much better if it could work like a machine that you just sort of plug into and you get the audience. And I think it's something that's worth considering. As it's probably not an appropriate moment to say it or whatever, but as crowdfunding becomes more and more important, as other sources of money collapse, whether it's big business or the state, clearly we're going to have more responsibilities. And the idea of one of the things I think is really paradoxical is the chance that we might make a lot of money from what is in essence a lot of filmmakers' desire to reach community and to. I'm just saying this because otherwise it could be too nice. Because there's this sense that a crowdfunding system basically just provides filmmakers with a way to DIY something, you know, and there is something really paradoxical in that.
And that's kind of all right, but it's the people who are building the platform to make themselves rich off that labor.
That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying, yeah. And there's no way you kind of can't. I mean, there's no way you will get value from. So I think, to put it in a more positive light, I think thinking about that contract is really important, because it's kind of okay if you're Yancey, who's gone, who's consistently making money for filmmakers. When they ultimately get that $60 million, it's going to be like $2 billion, isn't it? You kind of won't hate too hard because you know that along the way everybody was doing well from it. But it's worth thinking about, because you were saying about the quotidian culture of let's say the BBC but we have a contract with them, right? We have systems that are in place to deal with that, and we don't have the same thing for crowdfunded systems, just like we don't have it with Facebook, right? We don't actually, they take from us, but we don't get anything back from those relationships. And I think it would be a great time for filmmakers to say what you require or what we require. Obviously I'm in a weird position in this one when we are dealing with these platforms, rather than just thinking, oh, maybe I'll make 10,000, because for sure the platform accrued a lot of value along the way.
So it's not just about taking the money and running, and if it's seen just as fundraising and exploitative, it'll be like a lot of charitable fundraising, which is getting increasingly exploitative. It's about building a partnership and relationships with a group of people. It does take time, but I think in the long run it can add to your filmmaking and your future. There's quite an interesting crowd fund I think it's called the Thrust Fund, and it started with the question, would 3% of my future lifetime earnings be worth $300,000? And they started putting people up on the website, selling 3% of their future earnings for $300,000 now. I'm not sure whether it is worth it or not, but you might strike rich. But what you're doing is you're getting behind someone you believe in, and it's on a journey with them for the whole of their future. And I think that's really interesting. I think one of the interesting things about giving money back to people is that the relationship doesn't end when you make the project, when you make the film. But as with The Age of Stupid, I get something in my bank account every year. I'm connected with them for a much longer period of time, and will engage or can be asked to engage with them again and again and again.
I was just going to say, I'm not sure that I entirely followed everything you were saying, Jamie, but
Maybe I
as
don't.
far as
It's difficult.
again, no.
Possibly I
we just
don't
met, I don't. But I was just going to address if there's kind of a little ickiness around is it around the idea of panhandling, or is that going to your fellow filmmakers?
No,
is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I'm being completely unclear. What I'm saying is that
the platforms are making money off of you.
Every time a platform like Indiegogo, for example, or says, okay, you've got to, you hear these stories, right? I'm the filmmaker, I've got to go out and I've got to manage my emails, I've got to do my incentives and put up photos and go after communities and look for this and look for that.
Yeah.
Every single time they're doing that, they're making value for two things: their little donations for their film and the value of your company. The point I'm making is that we don't talk about that. Nobody talks about it. It's just like, this is the future. This is, I don't know why.
All right, let's take them off. Hold on a second.
Do you understand?
Hold on.
Do you understand?
Here it is. Now I get it.
Now you get what I'm saying, right?
Ready?
Let me put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the old world, right, let's say you wanted to have a blog. You wanted to make a blog, right? What would you have to do before, in 2003 to start a blog? You would have to figure out, how do I program a website? Okay, you have to read books, you have to talk to people, you have to figure out, okay, now I have a website, but wait, a blog I have to update every day. So how do I make updates on my website? Oh, I have to program a new module. Oh, wait, okay, how do I have people comment? Oh, shit, I don't know, I gotta go read more books, I gotta hire someone else, I gotta pay more stuff. Do this. How do I enable, whatever, all of these different functionalities? It would cost thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours, tens of hours, let's say, to build a website.
Hundreds.
Okay, dozens.
More like tens, and I definitely never read a book.
To build a website, okay. If you literally didn't know how but wanted to be a blogger, then somewhere around 2004, 2005 was WordPress, right? Free. So you don't need any of that stuff. You can just use WordPress and you have a blog. 2005, you want to raise money. Oh, let's use eBay, even another one. You want to do an auction. You have some stuff in your basement. You want to do an auction. You can pick up the phone. You can say random numbers. Hi, I'm Adam. I have an old rake. I have a computer that doesn't work, and some clothes. Would you like to buy them? It totally wouldn't work. You have an auction. You put up newspaper ads. You can hold it in the local gym of a school.
Well,
any of these things.
It does work sometimes. Like with Steal This Film was a cold start project. Raised a lot of money from the crowd. So sometimes it does work.
No, hold on. But you didn't do that from your house picking up the phone. You need a platform, right? So, okay, let me finish this. You don't need a platform?
We just had a flat web page. I'm saying let's not make too much of it because.
Well, let me finish. Let me just finish, and then we'll get back into it. Okay. So if you want to crowdfund for any idea, well, I don't care what it is, in 2005, you want to say, okay, everybody, I have an idea, and I want you to donate to me. What would you do? You have other ways of doing it. You can use your phone. You can use mail. You can use all these things. And then, but if you want to make a website and you just announce, I'm now crowdfunding, nobody would come because nobody knew what it was. It wouldn't make any sense. No one would trust it. You didn't have a way to pay. There's no way to do it. So then enter a tool or platform or whatever, like any of these platforms.
Yeah.
But they're an optimized suite of tools, services, relationships that enable you for free to start a campaign within an hour by uploading things, by sharing information, by connecting you to a community of people who already know that it's possible because of the work that's been done to provide the service. Again, for free.
You're totally right. I really accept all of that. I mean, I accept it because, I know when I look at Vodo's books, that we've put $250,000 that I got from somewhere into development. I mean, I don't know how I've done it, but we have spent that money, and when people are using our system, they are directly leveraging all of that time and energy that we've put into making the thing. Still, if you think about Indiegogo, let's say, as a center of attention where you can come and you know people are going to at least see your project and at least see that there's a pitch out there. Still, there's a portion of that attention, that latent attention, that has been generated by the labour of other filmmakers.
Of course.
That's my only point. That's all I'm saying, and that we don't talk about that very much.
Well, but that's
you see, just that there should be some sort of contract. There should be some sort of discussion and contract between the value that's being brought into a system by filmmakers and the value they're pulling out, and also the value the audience gets as well. Does that seem too controversial? I just thought it's worth saying because it's a bit like we're a new thing, and
absolutely
we
value the film. Everybody values each other. I think in this room. I think on Indiegogo, on Kickstarter. I think we all value that it's a symbiotic, sort of world in crowdfunding.
As there are in any
industry. Yeah. Exploitation.
I was just thinking, for example, one of my we shouldn't say this. One of my programmers started working on Rever.
I have to say, I'm very surprised.
Do you remember Rever? Rever?
Mm-hmm. Rever, yes.
Yeah. So, Rever is just lying in a state of disuse, and I happen to know that there's like 40,000 videos on there that are just sitting there. Now, every single one of those films, at some point, Rever was a going business, groovy, making money for filmmakers. And at another point, it just shuts down, and all bets are off because there's no. It's not like dealing with the BBC or dealing with the state or dealing with where we have these carefully, wrongly possibly sculpted contracts, but we have some idea of a compact. See what I'm saying? That's not just the market or not just.
But
see what I'm saying?
I guess I just so fundamentally disagree with you.
What do you disagree about?
Well, because maybe there's a misunderstanding that I just understand that maybe we should bring it to the crowd here. I mean, it's what do you think is a fair exchange between a filmmaker or a wine bar owner or a guy who needs his tooth fixed, which has happened on Indiegogo, and he's fixed his tooth for $2,500 because he didn't have dental insurance, or what's a fair number? Is 4%? Is that exploitation? And is that?
But it might not even be to do with the money. It might be just, for example, like one of the things I might think is that films that have been funded by the public should be publicly available.
Oh, that's between the crowd and the owner. Yeah, that has nothing to do with the exploitative man behind these platforms, I don't think, does it?
But I'm not necessarily talking about an exploitative man. I'm talking about the fact that we're entering a new relationship between the public and the creator.
Oh, there you go.
I'm just going to jump in here because we almost have to go to the next group. It's turned into a bit of a very interesting discussion.
It's my fault.
No, it's not your fault. No, it's good. It's my fault for planning too much in the session, but that's okay. Before we do change over to the next group, obviously you're all doing great things, and we could have invited literally about another 15 platforms to sit on here, and this sort of relates to what you were just saying then, but do you think we'll see a declining in some of the platforms that are out there and just have a few that are there providing the best offers to filmmakers? Or do you think there is an
obvious centre of gravity emerging, isn't there? I would say Kickstarter's pretty much nailing it. In terms of, my view, but then you guys you're in the business.
Yeah, sure. Well, there are so many platforms now that's a big challenge that we're coming across. So what we've been trying to do is find a different way, slightly, of doing it, so that we have a certain appeal. So our portfolio launch rather than individual projects. And I guess where we come in, we're a not-for-profit company. We're very much about working very closely with projects, launching few rather than many, and creating that community of funders. So I think you'll see lots of crowdfunding platforms start to make those sorts of differentiations between each other, so that they don't all look like Kickstarter and they don't all just copy Indiegogo, two platforms which have been hugely successful. But again, everything takes time to grow. Kickstarter had a slow period to start with, and it hits a tipping point and really goes for it. And particularly in the last 12 months, Kickstarter has been very successful. I'm sure Indiegogo probably experienced a similar line of growth as well. So if the crowdfunding platforms can make it to that point, then they'll become successful and you'll see them stay. But many won't, and that's I think because they're not having a different enough approach to it. There's so many things you can do with crowdfunding. Crowdfunding has been around for thousands of years, really. This is just something new, and I think different platforms.
Can we? Sorry, I'm just going to cut in there. Michael, I'm going to give you the last word on this.
I mean, we're niche, and I think there's a niche there for us, but I think we're going to survive on our creativity in using the technique in different creative ways. And you'll be hearing from Ben Ramsden afterwards, who we've helped develop a pants bond with. I'm working with groups of young people, young entrepreneurs, on a scheme called Lend Me a Tenner, where they'll get 100 people around them for their future life, lending them a tenner which will get paid back. I think that we will survive if we're creative, and there will always be room for the big ones and the niche ones. I hope we'll become big and niche.
Okay, well, thanks, guys, and I'm really sorry to cut you off. So let's move on to the next group for the last half an hour. Thanks. Thank you very much. So this is Sarah G. from Angel Shares, Ben Ramsden from Pants to Poverty, Chajinder Singh from Corner Shop, Jane from the Awesome Foundation, and Darren Westlake from Crowdcube. That is everyone, isn't it? Cool. Thank you for your patience. And Dan Glass. Sorry, I missed Dan as well. So we'll just let them settle. Okay, so this last bit of the panel is about people who are primarily working outside of film, not necessarily from a crowdfunding platform, but just doing interesting things that engage communities and I think demonstrate the lessons that maybe filmmakers need to learn, perhaps to be social entrepreneurs and to just think totally differently in terms of fundraising and community outreach. So that's the kind of the reason for the vast diversity that we've got here. I'm going to start with Chajinder. So Chajinder Singh is, of course, the frontman of Corner Shop. Chajinder raised money for the last album on Pledge Music. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you did?
We were looking. We started our own label out a good few years ago. With the second album on the label, we decided we wanted to have some funding help to finish the project off, to get the album that was nearly done, mastered and put out, and also have some sort of campaign around it. With the first album, we talked to a lot of different labels and different publishers, and that's why we decided to do a label. And when we first came across the idea of Pledge, I wasn't convinced at all. One of the problems with the old model within music is that the copyright is always held by the label, and I think that was some sort of what was happening with the argument that was going on with the last session. So copyright for me was a very, very big thing, and I took some convincing to go onto the platform, which was the Pledge campaign. And it was also quite a new thing that people in music aren't really that used to. I think in terms of film, those sort of campaigns with Kickstarter have been going on for a lot longer. So, as everyone has mentioned, it takes a lot of administration. It takes a lot of forethought to get people involved or want to be involved. And also with music, again, opposed to film, you've only got an album which lasts for 50 minutes, and it's mainly only an audio album. So there has to be other sort of perks, as people have called them, to get people wanting to be involved and feel that they're involved. And some groups, younger groups, I think are more amenable to do play in people's front room and be at people's birthday parties, and we're a bit too old for that. I think the biggest thing that we did in that of giving a bit of thine self was to have a meal with people, and we had 2 people go up for the offer of the meal. So there's a lot of different strategies put forward, and then there's also delivering those strategies, which takes a lot of time and a lot of organisation. You deliver things and things come back, and because you're new to it, it's a new learning process. It can get very frustrating. We were very lucky. We had a very good uptake, and we had a video blog going with the campaign. We kept people informed, and we were also very lucky that the people that we worked with, Pledge Music, liked what we were doing and also sort of took us under their wing. And I think there was that give and throw of we were helping ourselves and they were helping us as well. But the ultimate thing that made it convincing for me was, as opposed to what the record label model was, is that the artists keep their copyright and they're free after the delivery of all the perks and all of the vinyl and the CDs that went out and the meals. They still own the copyright to what they've done, and that to me is the biggest thing. That's what an artist I believe should be very interested in, and unfortunately not a lot of people do talk about that. Maybe they talk about it a bit more in the music industry, but that's the main focus for me, always has been.
Cool, and you've got some amazing rewards for people. I was looking through them just before I came here. So people we can see the list up here of some of the various things people could get, and it's really, I guess it's using the fact that you have a large fan base who are really interested in
Yeah, we were
connecting with
quite
you.
lucky that we've already got an old fan base, people who want to see us finish and deliver things, and to get new people on board. And the album that we actually pledged was an album that was done in Punjabi from start to finish, so that sort of made it very much a niche thing. But we always try to do music with an element of nicheness to it. So yeah, and then there's things that you perk that are there to just that you don't expect to be sold, like broken guitars and other things like that, and people take from a basic of an album to an album download to other things. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Let's move to Darren Westlake from Crowdcube, which is a totally different thing. But you're effectively crowdfunding for people to start businesses. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Are you able to bring up the website?
Yep. There we go.
So Crowdcube's, our company actually runs two different websites, both on crowdfunding. The first one is crowdfunder.co.uk, which is a shameless copy of Kickstarter, very much focused on UK projects, UK currencies. And that was kind of a spin-out of the work that we were doing to develop Crowdcube. And I'm not a creative person like a lot of you people. I'm an entrepreneur, and the reason I created Crowdcube was there's a dearth of access to finance for small businesses in the UK. And whilst I'm sure you'll consider yourselves filmmakers or creatives, you're also entrepreneurs because you have to run businesses and raise money for them. So I think this is really relevant to you as well. And the idea behind Crowdcube is, and if you could click on a pitch for me, perhaps the top left-hand pitch for me, rather than just go down a bit to the bubble and balm one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So each pitch on here, instead of being a creative project, is actually a business.
Sorry, just disappeared offline.
And rather than offering rewards in terms of a CD or a DVD or a download in your project, you're actually offering shares in your business. So people have the opportunity to take shares and get a reward and get a financial reward in the success of your business and your film. And that's a fundamental difference between kind of traditional type Kickstarter type models and what we're doing with Crowdcube. And we're speaking to some filmmakers at the moment, one particular project, and what they're looking to do is split their funding between the kind of crowdfunder model, the Kickstarter type model, where they're offering rewards and they can target a particular community who are interested in putting in quite small amounts of money for perks and rewards, and also kind of more serious investors who want to put in much larger amounts of money, perhaps thousands or tens of thousands of pounds, and get a share in your business and get a substantial financial reward at some point in the future.
Cool, thank you.